Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ramblin' Man podcast. This is episode 13. Once again, I am by myself. What a lonely journey this is. I'm just kidding. I'm just hoping to get some guests on here sooner than later. With everything that's going on, there's a fly. With everything that's been going on with COVID, obviously, having people over to do podcasts is kind of a weird thing to ask of people with everything that's been going on. So hopefully sooner than later, I will bring some people on to the podcast, just to share the floor, and, talk about some interesting topics, with people from different perspectives and different walks of life. I didn't know what to talk about today. So without getting really weird. Well, first, if you're listening on YouTube, most of you guys that watch on YouTube are not subscribed. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment. If you're listening on any of the streaming services, follow the podcast. Give me a rating. Let me know if you enjoy the content that I'm producing. And if you really do enjoy it, share it. Sharing is easy. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps my channel and my podcast grow. So thank you for listening in the first place. So if you're here, just hang around and become a part of the community. So I don't want to get really weird, but just because of the announcements with it, it's hard to not talk about it. And we're going to talk about UFOs. And UFOs are a weird topic because there's some people are in the middle, but you either believe it or you don't. I remember one time my parents made fun of me because I saw what I thought was a UFO. Now, when I say UFO, I don't mean that it was an alien particularly. What I mean was I saw something in the sky that was not a normal plane or jet or anything like that. It wasn't even a helicopter because what I saw was so bizarre. And I'm not really a person who's believes a lot of stuff. Well, I don't want to say that. I'm very open-minded and open to any kind of ideas. I'm not really super dismissive. I like to entertain things. But with that being said, I'm also not the most gullible person where I think that it's 100% true all the time, especially if there's no evidence. And, I guess I wasn't a skeptic, but I was if they're real, there's something that we won't see in our lifetime, was kind of my thought. And I remember I was leaving my house. I was probably 16 or 17 at the time. And I was walking in my car. And then when I walked around the front of my car and I looked in the sky, I saw it looked like 3 lights that were kind of in a circular pattern. And the reason why it struck me as bizarre because I had a reference point. I'm not a total idiot. At least I think maybe I am. I could be. But there was a plane in the sky. So I had a reference. I'm from Houston. We have a fairly big airport. So, you see planes fairly often. So I have a reference in my mind of how fast the plane is going in the sky and how high it is in relative to where I'm at, on the ground. And this object was lower than a plane, but high enough in the sky to obviously not interfere with anything on the ground. And there was a plane in the sky, and you could clearly see, when you watch a plane, it's nice and steady. Well, this object was moving quite fast. It stopped. Dead stop. Boom. It was gone. It was very weird. I told my parents about it. They made fun of me. The next day on the news, people are reporting they saw UFOs, is what they told me. And they were laughing about me. Or making fun of me. Well, that's my experience with it. I don't really tell a lot of people about it because everybody has this, everybody's like, if you say that story, they're like, you're fucking crazy. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. I'm not saying that I got abducted. I'm just saying I saw something bizarre. Do I think it was aliens? No. My opinion on UFOs is I think a lot of what we see that are UFOs are something that's not from here, or aliens. I think that's less of a probability than aircrafts that the government has, that they fly, that we don't know about. And whether those aircrafts are things that they made or not, I don't know. But the reason why I bring this up is a few days ago, just this week, I have my computer here for this podcast. We have no longer in shadows. Pentagon's UFO unit will make some findings public. For over a decade, the program, now tucked inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, has discussed mysterious events in classified briefings. So, in this article, I skimmed through it because I had seen some of the stuff already before and heard about it, not through the article, but the New York Times put out this article, and basically the main part that was important, in my opinion, was they said that it's going to be a new transparency. So apparently they're going to be putting out some information about what they know of. So here is the interesting part. No crash artifacts have been publicly produced for independent verification. Some retrieved objects, such as unusual metallic fragments, were later identified from laboratory studies as man-made. Interesting. But the most interesting thing that I read was, this is Eric W. Davis, an astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor, then a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program since 2007. He said, Mr. Davis, who now works for the Aerospace Corporation, a defense contractor, said he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as March about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this earth. So, it's interesting to me because now they're admitting that they have or have had in their possession things not from this earth. I don't think it's out of the question. I think one of the problems is people think of aliens as the very stereotypical little green man, big head, or whatever the hell you think Hollywood has made it out to be. But in reality, alien can really be any kind of creature. It could be a germ. It could be, there's plenty of things that can come from space that aren't from here. Anything not from Earth is technically alien. So the concept of alien doesn't have to be necessarily just little humanoid people. But basically they're admitting that UFOs are real, and they have retrieved some of these things. There's interesting people out there who have said that they've seen and worked on stuff from aliens, and now their stories, for a long time they've been labeled as people that were liars. And the famous Bob Lazar story, who was on Joe Rogan, is a very interesting one, that now, for so long he was painted in this light by people that he was crazy and a liar, but now that they're coming out with this, basically it admits that what he was saying was basically true. He was working on something in a lab that was not from Earth, trying to reverse engineer it, and the Pentagon's basically saying that it's true. They had things classified that they've had this for a period of time. So it's interesting to me in terms of aliens, because aliens is a weird thing. Are we the only life? If we're not the only life, it's like the idea of they have to be evil. Not necessarily. Just because humans tend to be crazy and evil and we like to kill each other doesn't mean that these humanoid things, whatever they are the same way. And I was thinking about it because the way we think is very bizarre in terms compared to animals. And then you think you have another layer of some kind of creature. They might think like completely different than us in general. So it's just interesting because, I mean, we think about what humans do. We make music and we do a lot of things for entertainment, whereas animals don't. And then you would think that maybe aliens have the same thing. What if they don't have any sense of pleasure or a necessity to make life enjoyable? You would think that their thought process is much different than us to begin with. It's just an interesting concept to think of. But I just want to talk about aliens because it's just crazy. Like, you think, just maybe 10 years ago, I mean, I'm 25 now, so 10 years ago I was like 15. You think about aliens and you think like, that's like when I saw the UFO, it's like you've heard like conspiracy stuff and all this weird stuff. You hear stories about the lizard people that control, Hillary Clinton is a lizard and whatever. You hear like these crazy conspiracies and you're like, well, this is obviously like batshit crazy. Like, what the hell do I think? And then it's hard to like really like think like, man, aliens and UFOs and that stuff could be real because you're just hearing all this crazy stuff. You have no idea to associate it with something that's, real. It's like out of touch with reality. But now, you're getting this information and there's people that, have been proven through their story, like Bob Lazar, and then now you have Commander Fravor and people like that who have seen stuff that's bizarre. And these people aren't bullshitters, in my opinion. And it makes you think, like, really, what's going on? Like, what a weird time. You have all this other bullcrap going on in life, in terms of politics and, in terms of COVID and, it just makes you think, like, what a weird time. UFOs are real. They have stuff. It's like bizarre. It makes you think like all of the problems that we think we have are really not that important. In the grand scheme of things, we're just little ants in this cosmic vastness that's just, we're just such a small little thing. But in the same sense, we're not small because it's like the idea that everything is interconnected and intertwined with it's such a weird, like, to me, I get really like bugged out thinking about this stuff because it's like not aliens, but just the idea that we worry about all these crazy things and these things that are relevant to our lives not necessarily, but to a degree. Yet we're so small. But at the same time, it's like a domino effect. It's like we're just a web of energy and decisions that echoes throughout the universe. And like thinking about that bugs me out because it's like, it's just weird that this small planet with all these people on this planet, we're really, spinning our own wheels about things that aren't important and losing sight of things that are important. But at the same time, we're making an impact throughout the universe with everything we do. If you think about it, in terms of technology, like the stuff we're able to do now, and as you think about it as it progresses, we're inevitably making changes of the course of the future as we progress. Like things, whether you believe things happen the way that they do, or it's not predetermined, or whatever, as we progress, we're also changing the course of humanity, which in essence is also the universe. Like we're just one chapter of that, but it's just weird to think about. Because we're so small, but we still have an impact. So it's just weird. weird. Thinking about aliens and UFOs and, all the problems we face here. Just makes you think about life in general. Space has always been crazy to me. Sometimes when you're outside, just look in the sky. Like, look at how big that is. No flat earthers, please. I don't want to hear it, please. But just look outside. Look in the sky, and look at how vast that is, and how hard it is to comprehend the craziness that's out there. Like when you read about black holes and white dwarf sun or stars and all kinds of stuff like that. It's just weird, like mind-bending type shit. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious. What do you guys think about aliens? You think they're real? You think the UFOs are real? You think the government's been lying to us and they've just been trying to... the way it makes sense to me is the government has had these aircrafts that they harvested from some kind of other life form that was advanced technologies. We probably have gotten some of our technology inspired from that. Something that I like to think, just my own theory, I think every civilization has been visited by some kind of alien and inspired the civilization to work towards this advancedness, if that makes sense. Just from pictures and stuff you see throughout history, the show like Ancient Aliens. I never really watched it, but I've seen stuff from it. And to me, some of the stuff you see is bizarre in terms of ancient history and those civilizations. They have some weird stuff that depicts stuff that maybe it was just they were visited by an alien and they were inspired by what they had or were capable of. That's what started, us as monkeys to start spinning our wheels to figure out how we could do that. But I think that the government, the U.S., wanting to be the best and have everything under wraps, harvested these ships that they came here at some point. They harvested these ships or heard about them. And it really is just a pissing contest between the other countries because, if they had this high-tech technology, and who's the first to figure it out? And keeping it a secret is going to make it easier to, get ahead. Because if the first person to figure out how that stuff works, it's game changer. But who knows? I mean, that's what I think. It makes sense to me. Make it something secret no one knows about. I think that probably even the president probably isn't even allowed to know about it. They probably keep him in the dark, and only the people that are responsible for the program are the ones that deal with it. But I want to know what you guys think. Those of you that are listening, I mean, do you believe in aliens? Do you think the UFOs are real? They're coming out and saying it is. So do you still have skepticism? What is it going to take for us to believe that they're real and that they're out there, or that there is this advanced technology and that we're not alone? What is it going to take? Do you think that we could handle it? I don't know. I believe it to a degree. No, I don't want to lie. I believe it. Until it's proven that it's false, I believe it. There's no reason for me not to believe it. That's just my opinion. And then if I'm stupid, if it's wrong and it's a lie and I'm stupid, fine. That's great. I'm stupid. But, yeah, short podcast today. I saw this and I thought it would be interesting to talk about. Thanks for listening. If you are still listening now, make sure you're subscribed, drop a comment. Let me know what you want to hear talked about. Give me some topics. What's some interesting things that you guys are reading about and hearing about? I'd be interested to just, hear from you guys. If you're listening on the streaming platforms, go ahead and follow, drop a rating. Thanks for listening. Until next time, guys, thanks for sticking around. This is the Ramblin' Man. Peace out.